All right, let's cut to the chase. You're sitting there, maybe sipping a coffee, scrolling through your phone, and you see it a young, brilliant, ambitious woman locking eyes with a guy who's clearly been around the block a few times. Not because he's got a fancy watch or a private jet, but because there's something about him, a fire, a vision, a relentless drive that makes the whole room stop and stare. You've probably wondered, what's the deal? Why are women drawn to men like me, Elon Musk? Is it the money, the fame, the fact that I've got a couple of rockets blasting off to space? Nope, it's not that simple. And it's way more interesting than that. Today, I'm going to let you in on the secret, not just about what makes men like me magnetic to women, but how yes, you can tap into that same energy. Because here's the truth. This isn't about chasing guys like me. It's about becoming the kind of woman who commands attention, who lives so fiercely that the world can't help but orbit around you. Let's get one thing straight right off the bat. Attraction isn't about bank accounts or shiny cars. Sure, those things might catch an eye for a second, but they don't hold it. What does hold it is a mindset, a way of living that screams purpose, clarity, and unapologetic ambition. When I started SpaceX, people thought I was out of my mind. Elon, you're going to take on NASA? You're going to build rockets from scratch? Good luck, buddy. But I didn't care. I had a vision, humans living on Mars, multi-planetary species, a future where we're not just stuck on this pale blue dot. That vision wasn't just a dream, it was a mission, a purpose so big it consumed me. And you know what? That's the kind of thing that makes people, women, men, investors, engineers want to jump on board. It's not about the paycheck. It's about the pull of a life lived with intention. Now, I'm not saying you need to go build a rocket company to be attractive. What I'm saying is that you need to know what you want, really, truly want, and you need to own it. No hesitation, no second guessing, no tiptoeing around to avoid stepping on toes. When I decided I wanted to make electric cars mainstream with Tesla, I didn't send out a survey to see if people thought it was a good idea. I said, this is what I'm doing. This is the future. Come with me or get out of the way. And that kind of clarity, that's what makes women sit up and take notice. Not because I'm some genius, though. I'm not a genius, but because I'm not afraid to say what I want and go after it, no matter how crazy it sounds. So let's talk about you. Yeah, you, the woman listening to this, the one who's got dreams bubbling up inside her, maybe a little scared to let them out. What's your Mars? What's the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning? The thing that makes your heart race? Maybe it's starting your own business, writing a book that changes how people think, or fighting for a cause that's bigger than yourself. Whatever it is, you've got to own it, say it out loud, write it down, tattoo it on your soul if you have to. Because when you know what you want and you're not afraid to say it, you start radiating this energy that's impossible to ignore. It's like a gravitational field. People can't help but be drawn to you. I remember this one time, early days at SpaceX, when we were still figuring out how to make rockets that didn't blow up on the launch pad. I was in a meeting with a group of engineers, and this young woman, barely out of college, stood up and said, I think we're approaching the fuel system all wrong. Here's how we fix it. Everyone looked at her like she'd just suggested we build a rocket out of cardboard, but she didn't back down. She had data, she had a plan, and she wasn't afraid to speak up, even in a room full of people twice her age. You know what? We listened, and she was right. That moment stuck with me not just because she was smart, but because she had the guts to say what she wanted, to stand by her idea, even when it felt like the whole world was against her. That's the kind of energy that makes people take notice. That's the kind of energy that makes you unforgettable. Now, let's flip this around. Think about the guys you've met who don't have that clarity, the ones who hem and haw, who say, I don't know, maybe we could hang out sometime. Or, I'm not sure what I'm doing with my life, but like, I'll figure it out. How does that make you feel? Probably not great. It's like trying to follow someone who doesn't know where they're going. You want someone who's got a map, who's got a destination, who says, this is where I'm headed, and I'd love for you to come along. That's what I mean by knowing what you want. It's not just about being bossy or loud, it's about having a direction and not being afraid to lead. And here's the kicker. You don't need to be a billionaire or a CEO to do this. You don't need a corner office or a fancy title. You just need to know what lights you up and go after it with everything you've got. Maybe you're a teacher who's passionate about inspiring kids. Maybe you're an artist who wants to create something that makes people feel something. Maybe you're just trying to figure out how to live a life that feels true to you. Whatever it is, own it, say it, live it. Because when you do, you're not just attracting men, you're attracting people, friends, mentors, partners, collaborators. You're building a life that's a magnet for greatness. Let's get real for a second. I failed a lot. Like, a lot. Tesla almost went bankrupt. SpaceX had 3 failed launches before we got one right. I've had moments where I thought, well, this is it, I'm done. But every time I picked myself up, looked at the goal, and said, keep going. That's what clarity does for you. It's not just about knowing what you want, it's about knowing it so deeply that even when the world throws punches, you keep swinging. And women, they see that, they feel it. They're drawn to it like moths to a flame, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. You're someone who's not afraid to stand up and say, this is who I am, and this is where I'm going. So here's my challenge to you. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to think about one thing you want. Not something small, not, I want a new pair of shoes, something big, something that scares you a little. Maybe it's quitting your job to start that business you've been dreaming about. Maybe it's telling someone you love them, even if you're not sure they'll say it back. Maybe it's signing up for that marathon you've always wanted to run, even though you haven't jogged a mile since high school. Whatever it is, say it out loud right now. Don't whisper it, say it like you mean it. And then take one step toward it today. Just one, because that's how you start. That's how you become the kind of woman who doesn't just attract men like me. She attracts a life that's worth living. Now, I know what you're thinking. Elon, that sounds great, but what if I don't know what I want yet? That's okay. Figuring it out is part of the journey. When I was in my 20 seconds, I didn't have it all mapped out. I just knew I wanted to do something that mattered, something that would push humanity forward. So I started asking questions, big questions, like what's the most important problem I can solve? Or what's the future I want to see? Um, Start asking yourself those questions. What's the one thing you'd do if you knew you couldn't fail? What's the one thing you'd regret not trying? Keep asking, keep digging, and you'll find it. And when you do, don't be afraid to shout it from the rooftops. Let's talk about attraction for a second, because I know that's why you're here. You want to know why women are drawn to men like me, and more importantly, how you can be the kind of woman who draws in the right people. Here's the deal. It's not about playing games or trying to be someone you're not. It's about being so clear about who you are and what you want that people can't help but be pulled in. When I'm working on a project, whether it's building a Cybertruck or digging tunnels with the Boring Company, I don't waste time trying to impress people. I just focus on the mission. And you know what? That focus, that clarity is what makes people want to be around me. It's what makes women look at me and think, there's something different about this guy. You can have that too. You don't need to be launching rockets or inventing AI. You just need to be you, the most unapologetic, driven, passionate version of you. Think about the women you admire. Maybe it's someone like Angela Merkel, who led with quiet strength, or Beyonce, who owns every stage she steps on. What do they have in common? They know who they are, they know what they want, and they're not afraid to go after it. That's what makes them magnetic. That's what makes you magnetic. Let's take a step back and look at this from another angle. When I started Zip2, my first company, I was a kid with a dream and a computer. I didn't have a clue what I was doing half the time, but I had a vision, make information accessible, change how people find what they need, and I went all in. I slept on the floor of the office, showered at the YMCA, and coded until my eyes burned. Why? Because I knew what I wanted, and I wasn't going to let anything stop me. That's the kind of energy that draws people in, not just women, but investors, partners, friends. When you live like that, you create a force field, you become a beacon. So, what's your beacon? What's the thing that's going to light you up and make the world take notice? Maybe you're thinking, Elon, I'm not trying to save the world. I just want to find a great guy. Fair enough. But here's the thing, the kind of guy you want, the kind who's worth your time, isn't looking for someone who's just waiting around for him. He's looking for a woman who's got her own mission, her own fire. He's looking for someone who's going to challenge him, inspire him, and make him want to be better. And you can't do that if you're not clear about what you want. Let me tell you a quick story. A few years back, I was at a conference, and this woman came up to me after my talk. She was probably in her late 20 seconds, sharp as a tack, and she said, Elon, I've got an idea for a sustainable energy startup, but everyone tells me it's too risky. I asked her, do you believe in it? She said, with every fiber of my being. I told her, then do it, risk it all. If you fail, you'll learn something. If you succeed, you'll change the world. Last I heard, she's running a company that's making waves in renewable energy. That's the kind of woman who turns heads not because she's trying to, but because she's living her truth. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to take a stand for what you believe in. When I started Neuralink, people said, Elon, you're nuts. Connecting brains to computers? That's science fiction. But I didn't care. I saw a future where we could solve neurological diseases, where we could enhance human potential, and I went for it. That's what I want for you. Find your Neuralink, find your crazy, impossible dream, and then say it out loud. Tell the world, tell the guy you're dating, tell your friends. Because when you do, you're not just attracting people, you're building a life that's worth living. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, it's not. Knowing what you want takes work, it takes soul searching, trial and error, and a whole lot of courage. But here's the good news: you don't have to do it alone. Surround yourself with people who push you, who challenge you, who believe in your dreams, even when you're doubting yourself. That's what I did with SpaceX and Tesla. I found people who were as crazy as I was, who believed in the mission, and together we made the impossible possible. So here's my promise to you. If you start living with clarity, if you start owning what you want, you're going to see a shift, not just in how men look at you, but in how you look at yourself. You're going to walk into a room and feel like you belong there. You're going to start attracting people who see your fire and want to add fuel to it. And most importantly, you're going to start building a life that makes you proud, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Not just finding a great guy, but becoming a great you. Let's wrap this up with one last thought. The world is full of noise people telling you what you should want, who you should be, how you should live. Tune it out. Focus on your signal. What's the one thing that makes you feel alive? What's the one thing you'd give everything for? Find it, own it, and don't let anyone talk you out of it. Because when you live like that, you're not just attracting men like me, you're attracting a life that's out of this world. All right, let's dive into the next piece of this puzzle. You've got the spark of clarity burning from knowing what you want, but now it's time to turn that spark into a supernova. I'm talking about vision, living for something so big, so audacious, it makes the ground shake beneath your feet. You think women are drawn to me because I've got a few cool toys like Tesla or SpaceX? Nah. They're drawn to the fact that I'm chasing something bigger than myself, something that could rewrite the future of humanity. And here's the deal. Yes, you can do the same. You don't need to be building rockets or colonizing Mars to live with that kind of purpose. You just need a vision that lights you up and makes the world sit up and take notice. So buckle up, because we're going to explore how to find your own Mars mission and why that's the key to not just attracting the right people, but becoming the kind of woman who changes the game. Let's start with a story. Back when I was dreaming up SpaceX, I wasn't thinking about how to impress anybody. I wasn't sitting there calculating how to make people think I was cool. I was obsessed with one thing: making humans a multi-planetary species. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, what's it going to take to get us to Mars? How do we make life sustainable on another planet? That wasn't just a goal, it was a vision that consumed me. It was bigger than me, bigger than my bank account, bigger than any one person. And you know what? That kind of obsession, that kind of purpose is like a magnet. It pulls people in, not just women, but engineers, dreamers, investors, people who want to be part of something epic. Now, I'm not saying you need to aim for Mars unless you want to, in which case, call me, we'll talk. What I'm saying is that you need to find your own version of Mars, something that makes your heart race, something that feels so big it scares you a little. Maybe it's launching a startup that disrupts an industry. Maybe it's creating art that speaks to people's souls. Maybe it's fighting for clean water in communities that don't have it. Whatever it is, it's got to be something that gets you out of bed in the morning, ready to take on the world. Because when you live for something bigger than yourself, you start radiating this energy that's impossible to ignore. It's like you're a star and everyone else is just orbiting around you. Think about it this way. When I started Tesla, the car industry was laughing at me. Electric cars? Good luck, Elon. Nobody's going to buy those. But I didn't care about the naysayers. I saw a future where we're not choking the planet with fossil fuels, where driving a car feels like piloting a spaceship. That vision wasn't just about building a company, it was about changing how we live on this planet. And when you have that kind of purpose, it's not just men who notice. Women, friends, colleagues, they all feel it. They see you're not just drifting through life, you're steering the ship and they want to be on board. So let's talk about you. What's your big vision? If you're sitting there thinking, Elon, I don't know, I'm just trying to get through the week, I get it. Life can be a grind. But here's the thing: you don't find your vision by waiting for it to drop out of the sky. You find it by asking the hard questions. What's the one thing you'd do if money wasn't an issue? If failure wasn't a possibility? If the whole world was watching and cheering you on? Maybe you've always wanted to start a nonprofit that helps kids learn to code. Maybe you want to write a novel that makes people rethink. what it means to be human. Maybe you want to build a community garden that feeds your neighborhood. Whatever it is, it's in there waiting for you to dig it out. I remember meeting this woman at a conference a few years back. She was a scientist working on renewable energy solutions, and she had this fire in her eyes when she talked about her work. She wasn't trying to impress me. She was just so damn passionate about creating a world where clean energy wasn't a luxury, it was the default. I thought, this is someone who's living for something bigger. And that's what made her stand out. Not her resume, not her looks, but the fact that she was chasing a vision that could change the world. That's the kind of woman who turns heads, who makes people think, I want to be part of her story. Now, let's be real. Chasing a big vision isn't all sunshine and rainbows. It's hard. It's messy. When I was trying to get SpaceX off the ground, literally we had three failed launches in a row. Three. Each one was a gut punch. Millions of dollars, years of work, gone in a fireball. But every time I went back to the drawing board. Why? Because the vision was worth it. Because the idea of humans living on Mars was bigger than any one failure. And that's what I want for you. Find something worth fighting for, something worth failing for. Because when you do, you'll realize that failure isn't the end, it's just a step on the path to something extraordinary. Here's where it gets interesting. When you live with that kind of purpose, you don't just attract men, you attract the right men. The ones who aren't intimidated by your ambition, who don't want to dim your light but want to add fuel to it. I've seen it time and time again. The women who are out there chasing their own Mars missions, they're the ones who end up with partners who respect them, who challenge them, who see their vision and say, hell yeah, let's do this together. That's what happens when you live for something bigger than yourself. You become a force of nature, and the right people can't help but gravitate towards you. Let me tell you another quick story. When we were building the Gigafactory for Tesla, I met a woman who was leading the charge on battery production. She wasn't just managing a team, she was obsessed with making batteries cheaper, more efficient, better for the planet. She'd stay up all night tweaking designs, running simulations, pushing the limits of what was possible. And you know what? Everyone around her was inspired. Her team worked harder because they saw how much she believed in the mission. That's what a big vision does. It doesn't just drive you, it drives everyone around you. It makes people want to join your journey, whether they're colleagues, friends, or that guy you're dating. So, how do you find your vision? Start small, but think big. Look at the world around you. What pisses you off? What makes you think this needs to change? For me, it was seeing humanity stuck on one planet, dependent on finite resources. For you, it might be something totally different. Maybe it's the fact that kids in your community don't have access to good schools. Maybe it's the way social media makes people feel like they're never enough. Whatever it is, grab it, hold on to it, let it fuel you. Because when you start living for something bigger, you stop worrying about the small stuff. You stop sweating the haters, the doubters, the people who tell you to play it safe. You become unstoppable. Here's a practical tip. Write it down. Get a notebook, a napkin, whatever, and write down one thing you want to change about the world. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be huge. Just start. Maybe you write, I want to help people feel better about themselves. Or I want to make sustainable fashion the norm. Or I want to teach kids how to dream big. Then every day, do one thing that moves you closer to that vision. It could be reading a book, taking a class, talking to someone who's done it before. Small steps add up. Before you know it, you're not just dreaming, you're doing. Let's talk about attraction again, because I know you're wondering how this all ties back to why women are drawn to men like me. It's simple. Men like me aren't just living for ourselves, we're living for something that matters. When I talk about colonizing Mars or building a sustainable future, it's not just talk, it's a mission. And women feel that. They see a guy who's not just drifting through life, who's not just chasing a paycheck or a good time. They see someone who's got a purpose and they want to be part of it. But here's the flip side, you can have that too. When you start chasing your own big vision, you'll attract people who see that fire in you and want to fan the flames. You'll attract men who don't just want to date you, they want to build something with you. I've met women like this all over the world. There was this one engineer at Neuralink who was working on brain machine interfaces. She wasn't just clocking in and out. She was obsessed with the idea of helping people with neurological disorders live better lives. She'd talk about it with this intensity, this passion that made everyone around her sit up and listen. And you know what? She wasn't just attracting attention from her colleagues, she was attracting attention from everyone. Because when you're living for something bigger, you become bigger. You become someone people can't ignore. Now, I know this sounds intense, and an island living for a big vision isn't for the faint of heart. It means saying no to distractions, to people who don't get it, to the easy path. It means waking up every day and choosing to fight for something that might not happen in your lifetime. But here's the thing, that fight, that struggle is what makes you alive. It's what makes you interesting. It's what makes you magnetic. When I was pouring every penny I had into SpaceX, when I was sleeping on the factory floor at Tesla, I wasn't thinking about how to impress anyone. I was thinking about how to make the vision real. And that's what drew people to me, not the money, not the fame, but the fact that I was all in. So here's my challenge to you. Find your big vision. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be fully formed. Just start asking the questions. What do you want to change? What do you want to create? What's the one thing you'd give everything for? And then take one step toward it. Maybe it's signing up for a coding boot camp. Maybe it's volunteering for a cause you care about. Maybe it's just sitting down and writing out your wildest dreams. Whatever it is, do it. Because when you start living for something bigger than yourself, you'll start attracting people who want to live big too. Let's wrap this up with one last thought. The world is full of people playing it small, chasing safe, comfortable lives. That's fine for some, but not for you. You're here because you want more. You want a life that feels like it matters. You want to look back and say, I did something epic. So go find your Mars, go find your mission, and don't just chase it, live it. Because when you do, you won't just be attracting men like me, you'll be attracting a life that's out of this world. All right, let's keep this rocket moving. You've got a spark of clarity, a vision that's bigger than yourself, but now it's time to strap on the boosters and blast through the atmosphere of doubt. I'm talking about confidence, not the fake it till you make it kind, but the kind that comes from knowing exactly what you want and not being afraid to say it out loud, even if it makes people raise an eyebrow or two. You think women are drawn to me because I've got a few shiny projects under my belt? Sure, SpaceX and Tesla are cool, but what really pulls people in is that I'm not afraid to stand up and say, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going all in. Whether it's colonizing Mars or reinventing transportation, I've never been shy about my dreams, no matter how crazy they sound. And you, ladies, can harness that same fearless confidence to become the kind of woman who doesn't just attract attention, she commands it. So let's dive into why daring to say what you want is a game changer and how it makes you absolutely magnetic. Let's start with a little story from the early days of my career. When I was pitching Zip2, my first company, I was this scrappy kid with a big idea, put every business in the world on a digital map. Sounds simple now, but back then people thought I was nuts. I'd walk into meetings with executives who were twice my age, wearing suits that probably cost more than my entire net worth, and I'd say, this is the future. This is how people are going to find businesses, and I'm going to make it happen. Did I get laughed out of a few rooms? You bet. Did I get told it was impossible? Every other day. But I kept saying it, kept pushing, kept believing, and you know what? That confidence, that willingness to stand by my idea, even when it felt like the whole world was against me, is what got Zip2 off the ground. It's what got people to listen. Now, I'm not saying you need to walk into boardrooms and pitch world-changing ideas, though if you want to, I'm all for it. What I'm saying is that confidence is about owning your desires, your dreams, your truth, and not being afraid to let the world hear it. When I started Tesla, I didn't just say, I think electric cars might be a good idea. I said, we're going to make the best damn electric cars in the world, and we're going to make gas-powered cars obsolete. That kind of boldness, it's not just about being loud, it's about being clear. It's about saying, this is who I am, this is what I want, and I'm not backing down. So let's talk about you. What's the one thing you're afraid to say out loud? Maybe it's that you want to quit your job and start your own business. Maybe it's that you want a relationship where you're equals building something extraordinary together. Maybe it's that you want to run a marathon, even though you've never run more than a mile. Whatever it is, there's power in saying it. There's power in standing up and declaring, this is what I want, and I'm going for it. Because when you do, you're not just telling the world, you're telling yourself. You're making a commitment to your own dreams, and that's where the magic happens. I remember this one time at a SpaceX launch. We were on our fourth attempt to get a rocket into orbit, and the pressure was insane. 3 failures already, millions of dollars down the drain, and the whole team was on edge. I stood in front of everyone, engineers, technicians, the whole crew, and I said, we're going to do this. We're going to get this rocket to orbit, and we're going to prove that a private company can do what only governments have done before. Was I scared? Hell yeah. Did I know for sure we'd succeed? Not a chance. But I said it anyway. I put it out there, and you know what? That rocket launched, and it worked. That moment wasn't just about the rocket, it was about the power of saying what we wanted, even when the odds were stacked against us. Here's the thing, confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about acting despite the fear. Every time I've stepped up to the plate, whether it's announcing Neuralink's brain machine interface or tweeting about taking Tesla private, I've felt the butterflies. I've heard the little voice in my head saying, what if this goes wrong? What if people think you're crazy? But I've learned to drown that voice out. I've learned to say, this is what I believe in, and I'm going to make it happen. And that's what I want for you. I want you to find that thing you're scared to say out loud and say it. Say it to your friends, your family, the guy you're dating. Say it to yourself in the mirror if you have to. Because the moment you do, you're not just a dreamer, you're a doer. Let's talk about why this matters for attraction. When a woman sees a man who's not afraid to say what he wants, whether it's, I want to take you out this Friday, or I'm building a company that's going to change the world, it's like a lightning bolt. It's not just the words, it's the energy behind them. It's the certainty, the conviction, the I'm not here to waste your time vibe. And you can have that too. Imagine walking into a date and saying, I'm building something big, a career, a passion project, a life that matters, and I want someone who's ready to build with me. That's not just attractive, it's magnetic. It says, I know who I am and I'm not settling for less. And trust me, the right kind of man, the kind worth your time, will hear that and think, this is a woman I need to know. Now, I know what you're thinking. Elon, what if I say what I want and people don't get it? What if they laugh? What if I get rejected? Let me tell you something. Rejection is part of the deal. I've been rejected more times than I can count. Investors who said no to SpaceX, critics who called Tesla a pipe dream, even dates who thought I was too weird. And you know what? Every rejection was a lesson. Every no pushed me closer to a yes. Because when you're clear about what you want, the rejections don't define you, they refine you. They make you sharper, stronger, more focused. Here's a practical tip. Start small. You don't have to declare your life's mission to the world right away. Start with something simple. Maybe it's telling your boss you want to lead a new project. Maybe it's telling a friend you're done with toxic relationships and you're holding out for something real. Maybe it's signing up for that art class you've been eyeing. Even though you're worried you'll suck at it, say it. Do it. Because every time you speak your truth, you're building that muscle of confidence. You're telling the world and yourself that you're not here to play small. Let me tell you another story. A few years back, I was at a tech conference, and this woman approached me after my talk. She was probably in her early 30 seconds, and she had this nervous energy, like she was about to jump out of her skin. She said, Elon, I've got an idea for a startup, but I'm terrified to tell anyone because it's so out there. I asked her what it was, and she laid it out, a platform to connect underserved communities with renewable energy solutions. It was bold, it was risky, and it was exactly the kind of thing the world needs. I told her, say it louder, tell everyone. The ones who laugh aren't your people. The ones who listen, they're the ones you want. Last I heard, she's raised funding and is making a dent in the energy sector. That's what happens when you dare to say what you want. You start attracting the people and opportunities that align with your vision. Now, let's talk about relationships, because I know that's on your mind. When you're confident enough to say what you want, not just in love, but in life, you set a standard. You're not just looking for a guy who's nice or fun. You're looking for someone who's got his own fire, who's got his own mission, who's ready to meet you at your level. And when you walk into a room with that kind of confidence, you're not just hoping for attention, you're commanding it. You're saying, I'm here, I know what I want, and I'm not settling for less. That's the kind of energy that makes a man think, this is a woman who's going places, and I want to be part of her journey. Um, Here's the thing. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's not about having all the answers or never doubting yourself. It's about being willing to stand up and say, this is what I want, even when your knees are shaking. When I announced Neuralink, I knew we were years away from making it work. I knew people would call it science fiction, but I said it anyway. I stood up and said, we're going to connect human brains to computers, and it's going to change everything. And you know what? People listened. Some laughed, sure, but others joined the mission. That's what confidence does. It opens doors, it starts conversations, it builds connections. So here's my challenge to you. Find one thing you want and say it out loud today. Doesn't have to be earth shattering. Maybe it's telling a friend you're starting a blog. Maybe it's telling a guy you're dating that you want a relationship that's about growth, not just comfort. Maybe it's telling yourself in the mirror, I'm going to chase my dreams and I'm not stopping. Whatever it is, say it, feel the weight of it. Because every time you do, you're stepping into your power. You're becoming the kind of woman who doesn't just attract men, she attracts a life that's worth living. Let's wrap this up with one last thought. The world is full of people who play it safe, who keep their dreams quiet, who let fear call the shots. That's not you. You're here because you want to be bold, because you want to live a life that feels like it matters. So go out there and say what you want, say it loud, say it proud, because when you do, you're not just attracting the right people, you're building a life that's out of this world. All right, let's shift gears and talk about something that's at the core of everything I've ever done: discipline and independence. You want to know why women are drawn to someone like me? It's not just the rockets or the electric cars or the wild ideas about colonizing Mars. It's the fact that I've built a life that's mine, a world that's solid, exciting, and worth joining. I didn't wait for someone to hand me a blueprint or tell me it was okay to dream big. I rolled up my sleeves, got to work, and created something that stands on its own. And you, ladies, can do the same. You don't need to be a billionaire or a tech mogul to build a world that's so compelling. So you that people, men, friends, collaborators can't help but want to be part of it. So let's dive into why discipline and independence are your superpowers and how they make you the kind of woman who doesn't just chase dreams but lives them. Let's start with a story from the trenches. When I was building Tesla, there were days, hell, years when it felt like the whole thing was going to crash and burn. I was sleeping on the factory floor, working 100-hour weeks, pouring every dollar I had into keeping the company alive. Why? Because I wasn't just building a car company. I was building a world where sustainable energy isn't a pipe dream, it's the default. I didn't need anyone's permission to do that. I didn't need someone to tell me I was good enough or that it was the right time. I had a vision and I had the discipline to make it real, step by grueling step. That independence, that ability to stand on my own 2 feet is what made Tesla more than just a company. It made it a movement. Now, I'm not saying you need to sleep on a factory floor or risk everything to be independent. What I'm saying is that you need to build a life that's yours, one that doesn't rely on anyone else to feel complete. That's where discipline comes in. It's the glue that holds your world together. It's showing up every day, doing the hard things, saying no to distractions, and saying yes to the stuff that matters. When I started SpaceX, I didn't just dream about rockets, I studied them. Um, I read textbooks, pestered engineers, learned everything I could about propulsion and aerodynamics. That wasn't glamorous. It was hours of grinding, late nights, and a lot of coffee, but it was worth it because it made me independent. It meant I didn't need anyone to hand me the answers. I could find them myself. So let's talk about you. What's your world? What's the life you're building brick by brick that's so undeniably you that people can't help but want to step into it? Maybe it's a career that lights you up, like designing sustainable buildings or teaching kids how to code. Maybe it's a passion project, like starting a podcast that dives into the issues you care about. Maybe it's as simple as creating a routine that makes you feel alive, running 5 miles every morning, cooking meals that make your friends jealous, or curating a circle of people who lift you up. Whatever it is, it's got to be yours. Not your parents, not your partners, not society's yours. I remember meeting this woman at a Tesla event a while back. She was a single mom working as a freelance graphic designer, and she'd built this incredible life for herself and her kid. She wasn't rich, she didn't have a fancy degree, but she had discipline. She'd wake up at 5 a.m. to work on her designs before her son woke up. She'd spend her evenings learning new software to stay ahead in her field. She'd carved out time to volunteer at a local art program for kids. And when she talked about her life, you could feel the pride, the ownership. She wasn't waiting for someone to come along and make her life better. She was doing it herself. That's the kind of woman who doesn't just attract attention, she inspires it. Here's the thing about independence: it's not about being alone, it's about being whole. It's about knowing that you're enough, that your life is full and vibrant, whether or not someone else is in the picture. When I started the Boring Company, it wasn't because I needed validation or because I wanted to impress anyone. It was because I saw a problem: traffic sucks, and I wanted to fix it. I wanted to build tunnels that could change how we move through cities. That independence, that ability to say, I'm going to do this because it matters to me, is what makes people take notice. It's what makes women look at a guy like me and think, he's not just living for himself, he's building something real. So, how do you build that kind of life? It starts with discipline. Discipline is the difference between dreaming and doing. It's saying no to the Netflix binge so you can work on your side hustle. It's getting up early to hit the gym, even when you'd rather hit snooze. It's setting boundaries with people who drain your energy so you can focus on the ones who lift you up. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not going to get you likes on Instagram, but it's what builds a life that's solid, that's yours, that's worth joining. Let me tell you another story. when we were scaling up production at Tesla. I had to make some tough calls. We were burning through cash. The production line was a mess, and everyone was telling me to slow down, to play it safe. But I knew we couldn't. We had to hit our targets or the whole thing would collapse. So I doubled down. I moved into the factory, worked alongside the team, and we pushed through. That discipline, that refusal to give up, to take the easy road was what got us through. And it's what made Tesla what it is today. It wasn't luck, it wasn't talent, it was showing up day after day, even when it was hard. You can do that too. Maybe your factory is your career, your art, your relationships, whatever it is, show up, put in the work. Say no to the things that don't serve your vision and yes to the things that do. That's how you build a world that's yours. And when you do, you'll start to notice something. People want to be part of it. Men, friends, colleagues, they'll see the life you've built, the discipline you've put in, and they'll think, this is someone who's got it together. This is someone I want to know. Let's talk about attraction for a second, because I know that's why you're here. When a woman sees a man who's independent, who's built a life that's full and meaningful, it's like a beacon. It's not just that he's got his act together, it's that he's living with purpose, with discipline, with a sense of ownership. And you can have that too. Imagine a guy meeting you and realizing you're not just waiting for someone to complete you. You've got your own career, your own passions, your own world. You're not looking for a savior, you're looking for a partner, someone who can match your energy. That's the kind of woman who doesn't just attract men, she attracts the right men, the ones who see your strength and want to build something with you. Here's a practical tip. Start small, but be consistent. Pick one area of your life where you want to be more disciplined. Maybe it's your health, commit to walking 10,000 steps a day or cooking a healthy meal 3 times a week. Maybe it's your career, set aside an hour every day to learn a new skill or work on a project that excites you. Maybe it's your relationships, decide to only spend time with people who lift you up and say no to the ones who don't. Whatever it is, stick to it, make it non-negotiable, because every time you show up for yourself, you're building a life that's stronger, more vibrant, more you. Let me tell you one more story. I met this woman who was running a small bakery in a town near one of our Tesla factories. She wasn't just baking cupcakes, she was creating an experience. She designed the shop herself, sourced local ingredients, and built a community around her business. She worked 12-hour days, not because she had to, but because she loved it. She'd tell you about her plans to expand, to teach baking classes, to create a line of sustainable packaging. And when she talked, you could feel the energy, the independence, the discipline. She wasn't waiting for someone to come along and make her dreams happen. She was doing it. That's the kind of woman who doesn't just turn heads, she changes lives. Now, I know independence can sound daunting. It's easy to think, Elon, I don't have the resources you do. I can't just build a company or chase some crazy dream. But independence isn't about money or status. It's about owning your choices, about building a life that reflects who you are. You don't need $1 million to do that. You need discipline, the discipline to show up for yourself, to say no to what doesn't matter, to say yes to what does. You need the independence to know that you're enough, that your life is full and vibrant, with or without someone else. So here's my challenge to you. Start building your world today. Pick one thing, just one, that makes you feel alive, and commit to it. Maybe it's taking a coding class because you've always wanted to build an app. Maybe it's starting a journal to figure out what you really want. Maybe it's saying no to a relationship that's holding you back. Whatever it is, do it with discipline. Show up every day. Because when you build a life that's yours, you're not just attracting people, you're attracting a life that's worth living. Let's wrap this up with one last thought. The world is full of people who let life happen to them, who wait for permission, who rely on others to define their worth. That's not you. You're here because you want to build something real, something that's yours. So go out there and do it. Be disciplined, be independent, build a world that's so compelling, so you, that people can't help but want to be part of it. Because when you do, you're not just attracting men like me, you're attracting a life that's out of this world. All right, let's keep this train rolling, or should I say, this rocket soaring. We've talked about knowing what you want, chasing a vision bigger than yourself, standing tall with confidence, and building a world that's undeniably yours. Now, let's get into something that's not just a game changer, but a lifesaver, emotional control. You think women are drawn to me because I've got a knack for building cool stuff like Tesla or Neuralink? Sure, that's part of it. But what really sets someone apart, whether it's me or you, is the ability to stay calm when the world is falling apart. To breathe, think, and act with clarity when everything's on fire. That's the kind of strength that makes people lean in, that makes them trust you, that makes them want to follow you. And ladies, this is a superpower you can master, one that will not only make you magnetic, but will transform how you navigate life's chaos. So let's dive into why emotional control is your secret weapon and how it can make you the kind of woman who doesn't just survive the storm, she thrives in it. Let's start with a story from one of the darkest moments of my career. Picture this, it's 2008, and both Tesla and SpaceX are teetering on the edge of collapse. Tesla's running out of cash faster than a rocket burns fuel, and SpaceX has just had its third failed launch in a row. I'm getting calls from investors telling me to pull the plug, headlines screaming that I'm a fool, and my personal bank account is looking like it's been through a black hole. Stress? Oh, you bet. I could have screamed, thrown things, or locked myself in a room and given up, but I didn't. I took a deep breath, looked at the data, and said, we're going to figure this out. I broke the problems down one by one and tackled them with a clear head. That fourth SpaceX launch, it worked. Tesla, we clawed our way out of the red. Why? Because I didn't let my emotions run the show. I stayed cool, and that's what got us through. Now, I'm not saying you need to face corporate meltdowns to practice emotional control. Life throws storms at all of us, big and small. Maybe it's a fight with your best friend that leaves you fuming. Maybe it's a job rejection that makes you feel like you're not enough. Maybe it's a date who ghosts you after you thought things were going great. Whatever it is, the ability to pause, breathe, and respond instead of react is what sets you apart. It's what makes you the kind of woman who doesn't just survive life's curveballs, she hits them out of the park. Let's break this down. Emotional control isn't about bottling up your feelings or pretending you're a robot. I'm not a robot, despite what some people on X might say. It's about mastering your emotions so they don't master you. When I was dealing with the Tesla crisis, I felt the stress, the fear, the frustration. I'm human, but instead of letting those feelings take the wheel, I acknowledged them, then set them aside. I'd go for a walk, clear my head, and focus on the next step. That's what emotional control looks like, feeling the storm, but not letting it knock you off course. So, how does this make you magnetic? Think about it. When a woman sees a man who can handle pressure without losing his cool, whether it's a business deal going south or a personal crisis, it's like a signal. It says, this guy's got it together. He's someone I can trust, someone who won't crumble when things get tough. And you can send that same signal. Imagine you're in a heated argument with someone you care about. Instead of yelling or shutting down, you take a moment, breathe, and say, I hear you. Let's figure out how to make this work. That's not just attractive, it's powerful. It shows you're in control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. I remember this one time at Neuralink, we were hitting roadblock after roadblock trying to get the brain machine interface to work. The team was frustrated, tempers were flaring, and it felt like we were stuck in quicksand. I could have snapped at everyone or thrown up my hands and walked away. Instead, I called a meeting, got everyone in a room, and said, let's take a step back. Let's look at this calmly and find the solution. We didn't solve it that day, but that moment shifted the energy. The team saw that I wasn't going to lose it, and it gave them permission to stay focused too. That's what emotional control does. It doesn't just keep you grounded, it grounds everyone around you. Here's how you can start building this superpower. First, recognize your triggers. What sets you off? Is it criticism, rejection, feeling ignored? For me, it's when people say, that's impossible, without even trying to understand. When you know your triggers, you can prepare for them. Next time you feel that heat rising in your chest, take a beat. Count to 10, take a deep breath, or step away for a minute. I do this all the time. Walk away, clear my head, come back with a plan. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about giving yourself space to choose how to respond. Let's talk about a practical example. Say you're on a date and the guy says something that rubs you the wrong way. Maybe he dismisses your career or makes a snarky comment about your passion project. Your first instinct might be to snap back or shut down, but instead try this. Pause, smile, and say, interesting take. Tell me more. You're not agreeing with him, you're staying in control. You're giving yourself time to process and respond in a way that shows strength, not impulsiveness. Um, that kind of composure, it's magnetic. It says, I'm not rattled, I'm in charge of me. Now, let's tie this to attraction. When a man sees a woman who can handle tough moments with grace, whether it's a work crisis, a personal setback, or just a bad day, it's like a beacon. It says, this is someone who's solid, who's reliable, who's got my back, and you can be that woman. Imagine a guy watching you navigate a stressful situation. Maybe you're dealing with a demanding client or a family drama, and instead of losing it, you stay calm, focused, and solution oriented. That's not just attractive, it's inspiring. It makes him think, this is a woman I can build something with, someone who won't fold when life gets hard. Let me tell you another story. A while back, I was at a SpaceX event, and this woman on our team was presenting a new propulsion design. Halfway through, someone in the audience, a big shot investor, interrupted her with a condescending question, trying to trip her up. You could see the tension in the room, but she didn't flinch. She took a deep breath, smiled, and answered with such clarity and confidence that the guy was left speechless. Later, I overheard people talking not just about her technical skills, but about how she handled that moment. That's emotional control. That's the kind of strength that makes people take notice, not just in a boardroom, but in life. Here's a practical tip: practice the pause. Next time you're in a high pressure situation, whether it's a tough conversation, a work deadline, or a personal challenge, force yourself to take a moment before you react. Step away, take 5 deep breaths, or write down what you're feeling to get it out of your system, then come back and respond with intention. For me, this is second nature now. When I get a nasty comment on X or a setback at work, I don't fire off a reply right away. I sit with it, think it through, and choose my move. That's not weakness, it's power, and you can have that power too. Let's talk about relationships for a second. Emotional control isn't just about handling big crises, it's about the small moments too. Imagine you're dating someone and they forget something important to you, like a plan you made together. Instead of blowing up or giving them the silent treatment, you say, "Hey, I noticed you forgot about our plans. Can we talk about what happened?" That's not just mature, it's magnetic. It shows you're someone who can handle conflict without letting it derail you. And trust me, the right kind of man, the kind worth your time, will see that and think, this is a woman I can trust, someone I can build a life with. Here's the thing: emotional control isn't about being cold or distant, it's about being real. It's about feeling your emotions: anger, sadness, fear, and choosing how to express them. I'm not perfect at this. There are days when I want to yell or walk away from it all. But I've learned that losing my cool doesn't solve problems, it creates them. When I stay calm, when I choose my response, I'm not just solving the problem at hand, I'm building trust with my team, with my friends, with the people I care about. And you can do the same. So here's my challenge to you: start practicing emotional control today. Pick one moment, maybe it's a frustrating email from your boss, a disagreement with a friend, or a bad day that's got you down, and practice the pause. Take a breath, step back, and choose how you're going to respond. Do it once, then do it again. Because every time you choose calm over chaos, you're building a strength that's not just attractive, it's transformative. You're becoming the kind of woman who doesn't just survive the storm, she dances in it. Let's wrap this up with one last thought. The world is full of people who let their emotions run the show, who react without thinking, who let stress or fear call the shots. That's not you. You're here because you want to be different, because you want to be the kind of woman who stays cool when the heat is on. So go out there and master your emotions. Stay calm, stay clear, stay in control. Because when you do, you're not just attracting men like me, you're attracting a life that's out of this world. All right, ladies, we're in the home stretch now, and it's time to talk about the kind of magic that doesn't just pull people in, it makes them want to stay, to be part of something extraordinary. You've got clarity, a big vision, fearless confidence, discipline, and emotional control. But here's where it all comes together: building a life so vibrant, so full of purpose and energy, that people, men, friends, collaborators, can't help but want to jump into your story. You think women are drawn to me because I've got a few fancy titles or a garage full of Teslas? Nope. It's because I've created a world, a life that's exciting, meaningful, and worth joining. And you, yes, you can do the same. You don't need to be launching rockets or digging tunnels to build a life that's magnetic. You just need to live with purpose, passion, and a sense of adventure that makes people think, I want to be part of that. So let's dive into how you can create a life that's so compelling, it becomes a gravitational force all its own. Let's start with a story from the early days of SpaceX. When I founded the company, it wasn't just about building rockets, it was about creating a future where humanity could live among the stars. I'd talk about this vision with anyone who'd listen: engineers, investors, random people at coffee shops. And you know what? People didn't just nod politely, they got excited. They wanted in. Not because I was offering them a paycheck or a corner office, but because I was building a world that felt alive, that felt like it mattered. I remember this one engineer who joined us in the early days. She wasn't just signing up for a job, she was signing up for a mission. She'd stay up all night with us, tweaking designs, dreaming about Mars, because she wanted to be part of something bigger than herself. That's what a compelling life does. It invites people to join your story. Now, I'm not saying you need to start a company or have a world changing mission to create a life worth joining. Your life doesn't have to be loud or flashy. It just has to be yours, full of the things that make you come alive. Maybe it's a career that sets your soul on fire, like designing clothes that tell a story or teaching kids how to love science. Maybe it's a hobby that lights you up, like painting murals that brighten your community or running ultra marathons that push your limits. Maybe it's the way you live, surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, traveling to places that broaden your mind, or creating a home that's a sanctuary of creativity and warmth. Whatever it is, it's got to be a life that feels so rich, so full, that people can't help but want to step into it. Let's talk about what this looks like in practice. When I started the Boring Company, it wasn't just about digging tunnels, it was about reimagining how we move through cities, making life faster, easier, more exciting. I'd talk about hyperloops and underground networks with this crazy enthusiasm, and people would lean in, their eyes lighting up. Why? Because I was living a story that was adventurous, that was bold, that was worth telling, and you can do the same. Imagine a guy meeting you and realizing your life is a whirlwind of passion and purpose. Maybe you're organizing community events that bring people together, or you're learning to play the guitar and performing at open mics, or you're traveling solo to places that scare you just a little. That's not just attractive, it's irresistible. It says, my life is a story, and it's one worth being part of. I remember meeting this woman at a tech conference a few years ago. She wasn't a CEO or a big shot inventor. She was a teacher who'd started a program to get girls into STEM. She'd spend her weekends mentoring kids, organizing workshops, and building a community of young women who believed they could change the world. When she talked about it, you could feel the energy, the purpose, the joy. Her life wasn't perfect. She was juggling a million things, just like the rest of us, but it was hers. She'd built something so compelling that people wanted to be part of it, whether they were students, parents, or even random guys like me who just wanted to hear more. That's the power of creating a life worth joining. So, how do you do this? It starts with living intentionally. Ask yourself, what makes me come alive? What's the story I want my life to tell? Maybe you love writing Start That Blog you've been thinking about and pour your heart into it. Maybe you're passionate about fitness, sign up for that triathlon and train like your life depends on it. Maybe you're into helping others volunteer for a cause that matters to you and make it a part of your routine. The key is to fill your life with things that light you up, things that make you proud to be you. Because when you do, you're not just living, you're creating a world that others want to step into. Let's talk about attraction for a moment, because I know that's on your mind. When a man meets a woman who's built a life that's full of purpose and passion, it's like a magnet. It's not just that she's got her act together, it's that she's living a story that's exciting, that's meaningful, that's worth joining. I've seen it time and time again. The women who are out there living their truth, whether they're artists, entrepreneurs, teachers, or adventurers, are the ones who draw people in. They're not waiting for someone to complete them, they're already whole. And that's what makes a man think, this is someone I want to know, someone I want to build something with. Here's a practical tip. Start curating your life like it's a work of art. Look at your days, your weeks, your months. Are they filled with things that make you feel alive? If not, start making changes. Say yes to the things that excite you, even if they scare you a little. Say no to the things that drain you, whether it's a toxic friendship or a job that's sucking your soul. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who challenge you, who make you want to be better. Fill your time with experiences that make you grow, travel, learn a new skill, take a risk, because when you live like that, you're not just building a life, you're building a legacy. Let me tell you another story. I met this woman who was running a small nonprofit focused on clean water access. She wasn't making a fortune, and her work was exhausting, but her life was electric. She'd spend her days meeting with community leaders, her evenings researching new filtration systems, and her weekends hiking with friends to recharge. When she talked about her work, her eyes sparkled. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was full of purpose, full of adventure, full of meaning. And you know what? Everyone wanted to be part of it. Colleagues, volunteers, even the guys she was dating, they all saw her life and thought, this is someone who's going somewhere and I want to go with her. Here's the thing, creating a life worth joining isn't about having it all figured out. It's about living with intention, with passion, with a sense of adventure. When I started Neuralink, I didn't know if we'd succeed. I still don't know how far we'll go, but I'm all in because it's a story worth telling, a life worth living. And that's what I want for you. I want you to build a life that's so vibrant, so full of energy and purpose that people can't help but want to be part of it, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're living for you. So here's my challenge to you. Start building that life today. Pick one thing that makes you come alive and make it a priority. Maybe it's signing up for that dance class you've always wanted to try. Maybe it's starting a side hustle that could turn into something big. Maybe it's planning a trip to a place you've never been. Whatever it is, do it. Fill your life with moments that make you proud, that make you feel like you're writing a story worth telling. Because when you do, you're not just attracting people, you're attracting a life that's worth living. Let's wrap this up with one last thought. The world is full of people who live on autopilot, who let life happen to them, who settle for what's comfortable. That's not you. You're here because you want to create something extraordinary, something that's yours. So go out there and build a life that's so compelling, so full of purpose and passion that people can't help but want to join you. Because when you do, you're not just attracting men like me, you're attracting a life that's out of this world. All right, ladies, we've reached the final frontier of this journey, and it's time to bring it all home with a bang. We've talked about knowing what you want, chasing a vision bigger than yourself, standing tall with fearless confidence, building a disciplined and independent life, staying cool in the storm, and creating a world so vibrant that people can't help but want to join it. But now it's time to flip the script entirely. This isn't about chasing men like me or trying to fit into someone else's story. This is about becoming your own Elon Musk, the trailblazer, the dreamer, the doer who doesn't just attract a great life, but creates one. You don't need to be a tech mogul or a billionaire to live with that kind of fire. You just need to unleash the audacity, the grit, and the unapologetic drive that's already inside you. So let's dive into how you can become the architect of your own epic story and why that's the ultimate key to living a life that's not just magnetic, but out of this world. Let's start with a moment that changed how I see things. When I was pushing SpaceX through its early days, we were on the brink of failure. 3 rockets had blown up, and we were down to our last shot. I remember standing in the control room, watching the countdown for our fourth launch, knowing that if this one failed, it was over. The pressure was crushing, but I didn't let it break me. I looked at my team and said, "We're not just launching a rocket, we're launching a dream. Let's make it happen." That rocket didn't just reach orbit, it marked the moment I realized that being a trailblazer isn't about having all the answers. It's about daring to act, even when the stakes are high. That's what I want for you. To be the kind of woman who doesn't just dream, but dares to make those dreams real, no matter the odds. Being your own Elon Musk isn't about copying me or anyone else. It's about tapping into that raw, relentless energy that says, I'm going to make something happen, and I don't care how impossible it seems. When I started Tesla, people said electric cars were a niche, a fad, a pipe dream. I didn't listen. I saw a future where sustainable energy powers the world, and I went all in betting my money, my time, my sanity. That's what trailblazers do. They don't wait for permission or perfect conditions. They see a possibility and they run toward it, even if it means falling flat on their face a few times. And you ladies have that same potential. You have the power to be the architect of your own destiny, to build a life that's so bold, so uniquely you, that it inspires everyone around you. So, what does it mean to be your own Elon Musk? It means embracing the audacity to think big, bigger than you've ever dared before. Maybe you've got an idea for a business that could shake up your industry. Maybe you want to create art that challenges how people see the world. Maybe you want to lead a movement that changes lives. Whatever it is, don't shrink it down to fit what's realistic. Realistic is for people who settle. You're not here to settle, you're here to blaze a trail. When I came up with the idea for Neuralink, connecting human brains to computers, people called it science fiction, but I didn't care. I saw a future where we could solve neurological diseases, enhance human potential, and I went for it. That's the mindset I want you to adopt. See the impossible and make it possible. Let's talk about a woman I met who embodied this. She was a young entrepreneur running a startup focused on sustainable packaging. She wasn't rich, she didn't have a big team, but she had this relentless drive. She'd pitch her ideas to investors who'd roll their eyes saying, the market's not ready for this. But she kept going, tweaking her product, building partnerships, refusing to give up. When I talked to her, she wasn't just excited about her business, she was excited about the impact it could have, the way it could change how we think about waste. That's what being a trailblazer looks like. Not just chasing a goal, but chasing a legacy. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was hers, and it was inspiring as hell. That's the kind of woman you can be. Here's how you start. First, give yourself permission to dream bigger than you ever have. Sit down with a notebook and write down the wildest, most audacious thing you can imagine for your life. Don't censor yourself. Want to start a company that revolutionizes healthcare? Write it down. Want to write a book that becomes a cultural touchstone? Write it down. Want to travel the world while teaching people about sustainability? Write it down. The only limit is your imagination. Then take one step toward that dream today. It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's researching your idea, reaching out to someone who's done it before, or just telling a friend what you're thinking. The key is to start moving because trailblazers don't wait, they act. Now, let's talk about the grit it takes to be a trailblazer. When I was building the Boring Company, people laughed. Elon's digging tunnels now begins, but I didn't let the skepticism stop me. I saw a problem, traffic congestion, and a solution, underground transport systems. I pushed through the doubts, the setbacks, the naysayers because I believed in the idea. That's what you got to do, push through the noise. There will always be people telling you your dreams are too big, too risky, too impractical. Tune them out, stay focused, keep moving. I've failed more times than I can count. 3 SpaceX rockets exploded before we got one right, but every failure was a lesson, a step toward success. You'll face failures too, but they're not the end. They're just part of your story. Let's talk about attraction because I know that's part of why you're here. When a woman lives like a trailblazer, chasing her own path, building her own legacy, it's like a beacon. Men don't just want someone who's nice or pretty, they want someone who's alive with purpose, who's writing a story so compelling they can't help but want to be part of it. I've seen it over and over. Women who are out there breaking barriers, whether they're scientists, artists, or activists, have this energy that draws people in. They're not waiting for someone to define their worth, they're defining it themselves. And that's what makes a man think, this is someone extraordinary, someone I want to stand beside. Here's another story. I met a woman who was leading a community initiative to teach coding to underserved kids. She wasn't doing it for fame or money. She was doing it because she believed every kid deserved a shot at a better future. She'd work her day job, then spend her evenings and weekends building this program, rallying volunteers, and inspiring kids. Her life was a whirlwind of purpose, and you could feel it when you talked to her. She wasn't just living, she was changing lives. That's the kind of woman who doesn't just attract attention, she attracts respect, admiration, and people who want to join her mission. So, how do you become your own Elon Musk? It's not about mimicking my path, it's about carving your own. Find the thing that makes your heart race, and don't be afraid to chase it. Take risks, fail, learn, keep going. When I started Tesla, I put everything on the line, my money, my reputation, my sanity. I didn't know if it would work, but I knew I had to try. That's what trailblazers do. They try, even when the outcome is uncertain. Maybe your dream is starting a nonprofit, creating a new app, or advocating for a cause you believe in. Whatever it is, don't let fear hold you back. Take the leap. The world needs your ideas, your passion, your fire. Here's a practical tip. Surround yourself with people who fuel your audacity. I wouldn't be where I am without a team of dreamers who believed in my crazy ideas. Find your tribe, people who challenge you, inspire you, and push you to go bigger. Maybe it's a mentor who's been where you want to go. Maybe it's a friend who's always got your back. Whoever they are, make them part of your story. They'll keep you grounded when you doubt yourself and lift you up when you're ready to soar. Let's talk about relationships one last time. When you live like a trailblazer, you don't just attract men, you attract the right men. The ones who see your fire and want to fan it, not dim it. The ones who aren't intimidated by your ambition, but inspired by it. I've met women who are out there changing the game, whether they're scientists, entrepreneurs, or artists, and the men they attract are the ones who say, let's build something together. That's what happens when you become your own Elon Musk. You draw on people who want to be part of your epic story. Here's my challenge to you. Start today. Write down one big, audacious dream and take one step toward it. Sign up for that course. Pitch that idea. Say yes to that opportunity that scares you. Because every step you take is a step toward becoming the trailblazer you were meant to be. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. Start now and keep going. Let's wrap this up with one final thought. The world is full of people who play it safe, who follow the script, who let fear call the shots. That's not you. You're here because you want to write your own story, to blaze your own trail, to live a life that's yours. So go out there and be your own Elon Musk. Dream big, act boldly, and don't stop until your story is one the world can't forget. Because when you do, you're not just attracting men like me, you're attracting a life that's out of this world.